Good evening. It is 7 p.m. in NYC and 4 p.m. in Plymouth, California. I'm Sam Kimball from Crush Wine Experiences, formerly New York Wine Events. Thank you so much for joining us on virtual day trip to wine country. It is Wine Wednesday. Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. And we are here for some really fine Wine Wednesday wines from the Sierra foothills in California. We are here for Sierra Foothills wines. The theme is in part going to be about quality wine with a sense of place. I love that. It's about terroir. It's about a sense of place. And we're going to a very special place called Andis Wines. Andis Wines, if you are not familiar with it, is one of the leading producers of fine wine in the Sierra Foothills of Amador County, California, home to over 40 wineries in that region and wine tasting rooms. And the goal at Andis is bringing together a great team to make great wine. And Amador County offers a great canvas for making great wine. So this evening, our theme for the session is very much about a sense of place, but it's also about closing the bridge between old world and new world wines, and more about that from our guest, who you will see has a special perspective on that theme. He's one of the principals at Andis Wines, and he has 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in the new world, as you will see. Bottom line is Andis makes fresh, easy drinking, and extremely food-friendly wines. And because they're in Amador County and they're not dealing with sort of the mania of Napa Valley, they're able to make those wines price accessible, which is amazing and wonderful to see. We're visiting with Andis. I want to welcome welcome all. This is a winery that uses winemaking techniques from Europe, but also they have a sustainable and organic approach as well. It's going to be a really informative session. If you have any questions or comments during the session, please fire away in the chat in Zoom, and we will answer those as we go on the fly during the session. And if you would, hit the chat right now and tell us where in the world you are tuning in from. We love to see where everybody's at. Hello, Long Island, Chicago, Scottsdale. I see some new faces and some old faces. Great to see people coming back. Santa Clarita, California, amazing. Sunnyvale and North Carolina. Welcome, North Carolina. So really great to see everyone. We will be covering a lot of ground. Amador County has a higher elevation, warmer climate, and a very big diurnal temperature shift every day, especially in the summer. They'll see 100 degrees plus in the day and down to 60 degrees at night. The area has well-drained soils and deep-rooted grapevines. 90% of the vineyards are on slopes. And that's really interesting from the grape growing perspective and the winemaking and how that sort of shapes the flavors that come out of those grapes. And over 100 different grape varietals are grown in the Amador County region. Barbera, Semillon, Vermentino, Grenache, Syrah, amazing, all in the Sierra foothills in California. So let's take a look real quick at the map of Amador County in the Sierra foothills AVA, and you'll get a little bit of a sense of where we're headed here. So behind me, you'll see that little red map pin. That is where Andis Wines is in Plymouth, California. And if I move a little bit, you can see Sacramento. We're just east of Sacramento and kind of about halfway between Sacramento, roughly, very roughly, and the lake up there in beautiful, the large lake, which name is escaping me right now. But you're really in the center of Northern California, and it's a beautiful part of the world. Lake Tahoe. Thank you, Susan. And it's really an extraordinary place to visit. And one of the things that's great about the area and Amador County and the wineries is the hospitality is world class. So we're in for a treat. They started making wines in this area in the gold rush in the 1840s. And so they've been making wine a long time, with some comments and some thoughts of my own. But tonight we're going to do something different. And that is, we are going to watch a video all about our guest. And I think it's going to be really fun. So bear with me 1 sec. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to watch this, this awesome video. And then we'll bring our special guest on. So here goes. Right. Bear with me 1 second. Okay.
I grew up in Italy, running through vineyards, surrounded by family, and that's where I got my winemaking knowledge. Wine was always on the table. It's like the air. You breathe it, you have it. You'd never think that, oh, I need the air. For me, it was always wine. I always knew that in my future, I'll go back to that. I was introduced to a bottle from Amador County. Never forget. 2012 Cabernet Franc, which blew my mind. I mean, I didn't even know where Amador was. And during that process of discovering Amador, I was like, wow, rolling hills and beautiful vineyards. And I looked into my wife and I said, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to work. So I was my first Amadorian and first Andis Wines. And now it's part of my blood, I think. So it's Andis Wines run through my veins. When I arrived to the winery and this beautiful building like invites me and have this beautiful 360 degrees view over the valley, I am exactly where I wanted to be when I was a kid, surrounded by vineyards. Being a farmer and being in the vineyard it's very emotional. We always say that we're making wine for families and for friends to be shared together. Without friends is not the same emotion. It doesn't transmit you the same message. The wine, we know it's there. We all come from the same industry or not, but the wine for us is a companion. Creating wine, it's a beautiful process. It takes 5-6 minds, and at the end, when we all put these ideas together, it's not a script. It's something that it's created at the moment. Every year, everything that you learn from the previous vintage, you kind of erase that because Mother Nature brings different things to the table, and you have to work with them, and you have to adopt those 2, 3, 4, 5 components to each other and create something better every year. I consider myself a very lucky person because I do this for work, and I want to go meet more people in the state nearby or as far as can go to share this beautiful bottle of wine that comes from a gorgeous region as it is Amador County. I'm Lorenzo, and I'm the National Sales Manager for Andis Wines.
All right. Well, that was amazing, guys. That really cool. Sorry, we'll turn this off. Bear with me 1 second. So yeah, we're really excited. I want to welcome Lorenzo Muslia to the broadcast, and it's so great to have you. We're excited to have you, and you're the partner, one of the partners and an owner at Andis Wines. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you to all this amazing group for saving an hour to spend it with me in a happy hour or a dinner time, depending on where you are, where you're located. So,
yeah. And where does this broadcast find you this evening?
I am in Plymouth in Amador County, California. Not for long. In the next 2 days, I got to fly to Florida. So I'm a nomad. When people ask me where you're from originally, I said, like, well, if I tell you where I spend the most time is the Marriott. So I guess you can send my mail there.
You're from Marriott.
From the Marriott, yeah. And that's because of the way of my job. You know, I travel a lot for work. You know, I gotta expose these gorgeous wines to as many people as I can, and then I found out that the only way to do it is just by putting it on their face. So,
well, I have to ask you. You know, I know you're from Tuscany in Italy,
mm-hmm.
and it as it turns out, tomorrow we're doing a broadcast like this during the day, actually, with a winery. You probably know it, Volpaia.
Oh my God! Yeah, I have
in Tuscany. And so I'm so thrilled we're able to like cover the world between tonight and tomorrow. And yet at the same time, I mean, you're from Tuscany, but you've come and found your life's passion in Amador County, which is amazing. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what made you fall in love with that part of California and making wine at Andis.
Well, what made me fall in love with California was a blonde. Let's say that. Let's just start from the get-go. I was exposed to California from my wife, and in 2013, I sold my daughter was born and sold my restaurant in Italy, which I actually used to have Volpaia in my restaurant, which is so crazy. What a small
really.
world.
Well, now, are you from a part of Tuscany that's near Castello Volpaia?
Florence is about. I used to take my motorcycle on weekends or weekdays, depending, and just drive by. Yeah, it's very, very close. So like 30, 40 minutes. Florence is the epicenter, so everything is around. So yeah.
Right.
So I moved to California in 2014, and as every other European, I was straight directed to Napa and to Sonoma because I thought that there where wine was made. It was completely randomly that I was exposed to Andis Wines in Amador County. It was, as I said on the video, was a bottle of Cabernet Franc that was put in on my glass. I loved it so much that I did not believe was made in California. So I was a little bit of like very European driven, you know, when I moved to California. So I mostly drink European wine because it's, for me in Europe, that's what we are exposed. You know, we don't have the luxurious that what consumers have in United States to try wine from every corner of the world. We drink pretty much very locally. So the next day I drove to Andis Wines. They were just 4 years in business back then. And I literally camped outside. I said, I want a job because I really love this winery. I love this region. I love this. I love the view. You know, when I moved through the region, it really, my heart started beating so fast because it just reminded me of rolling hills. As you can see behind your back, that's where it's everything. It's a hill. It's a roll. So it's very similar to the Tuscan hills, despite that on the Tuscan hills we have churches on top or villages. Here are just vineyards, which is beautiful. And since then I made Andis my this is a perfect the place where the picture was taken. The angle, it's way up than what the building it is, and then the building is as well as on a hill. And as you can see behind, there are more hills and more. So it really resembled to me of my hometown, and I wanted to make this one part of my life. I wanted to make this one part of my lifestyle, and so I did. Instead of like accepting a job for a big winery in Napa and just being another employee. I always loved challenges and I always loved underdogs. So I even root for the Sacramento Kings, so which is
that's an optimist's.
That's an optimist. I mean, if I believe that they're gonna win NBA champ, I think Andis Wines will get the first 100-point score faster than the Kings winning. But so I was offered the job as a wine educator at the start because I was just going at the same time to finish my master at the Sonoma State University. And then from there, one led to another. I exposed them to new ways of making wine and new ways of talking about wine, and then the opportunity was presented to me to enter the family as a partner and take charge and be not just a partner but as well as a decision maker on the company. We have pretty much, when people ask me what is your position at the winery, I said it's divided in two categories. One, I oversees where the grapes come from because I believe that great wines are made on the vineyard. And then the other half is selling the wine. I don't want to be a Van Gogh that become famous after he dies. I want to sell at least one piece while I'm alive. I want to retire, let's say, and maybe enjoy more wine on the free time.
So on that point, we actually have a question from Steve. What is the signature varietal of the winery of Andis Wine?
Of the winery, the signature varietal, it would be Barbera and Zinfandel, hand on hand, because those are two varietals that have been exposed here since the 1900s. But at the same time, we pour the same amount of love on each of these varietal and they are so unique and distinguished from each other, which it would be really, it's like selecting, do you like your son or your daughter? And I love them both for different reasons. But for the same reason why I'm a little bit more advantaged towards my daughter, which my wife gets mad at me. And I would say Barbera would be my number one.
Well, after all, it is an Italian varietal. I think Zinfandel is technically a Croatian varietal.
Croatian varietal, yeah. But the region, we're known for Zinfandel. We sell 3 times more Zinfandel than Barbera, if we want to put it on that perspective. But because of the history, Zinfandel has been here since 1800. But Andis Wines, actually, we were voted from a famous magazine here as the best domestic Barbera of the last 25 years, which was a great achievement for us.
Now, does your higher altitude there help, and also the diurnal shift in temperature, does that help with Barbera?
Yes, correctly. So yeah, great question. Thank you, Sam. What makes our region so distinguished and so unique is the higher elevation where we are, and then the big diurnal in temperatures from day and night. Wine critics classify us as a warmer climate, which we are a warmer climate winery region. But the thing that they don't finish that sentence is that the temperatures drops by 40 degrees from day and night, which allow this varietal to not get overcooked and overripe, but preserve that natural acidity. And that when you preserve that natural acidity, translated into a wine term is the freshness. And yes, so Barbera, it's the northern Italian stable wine, and serendipity. Barbera grows in a region where it's called Piedmont, the foot of the mountain, and we are the foothill. So we're not the foot mountain, but the foothill. So it kind of like it fell in place. Mother Nature put it in place. So yeah, the exposure to the sun, the thickness of the skin, the diurnal temperature, the lower yields, and then the low the diversity of the soils makes the Barbera a signature for us.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we're actually taking a small group, about 16 or so people, to Piedmont this fall. And when I was there in Piemonte a year and a half ago, I tasted some great wines of all kinds and styles. And it's certainly the Barolos are great.
Yeah.
My favorite wine from my 5-day trip to Piemonte was a Barbera.
I'm glad you liked it.
It was spectacular. So,
well, I always tell people I can't afford Nebbiolo, because I have to send 3 kids to college or Barolo. And plus, I like to drink wine fresher. But we always drink Barbera while we wait for the Barolos to age. So no matter what, you're going to always drink Barbera. But yeah, and that's how Amador County is making a place in the history for themselves. It's just Zinfandel and Barbera because that's what the Californians are distinguishing us. And I encourage everybody to select this varietal from this region. You'll not be disappointed.
No, I've really been impressed with what I've learned. I know a little bit, not a lot, about the region, and I've really been impressed with it. We actually did a virtual tasting in the fall, and I'm actually looking up the name of the winery that we were at. Scott Harvey,
my neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, and he's making some terrific wines. And I think 3 Wine Company, I think Matt Klein is not too far away.
Yeah, Matt Klein is just a little bit, not far away.
He's a little further south, but I mean, these are very eminent, well-known winemakers, and they're in Amador County. They used to be in Napa, they used to be in Sonoma, but they're in Amador County now. And I think that, 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about, hey, you remember when we sort of stumbled on the Amador County wines and they were great? I mean, I think people are going to be saying that, the same way they talk about Sonoma and Paso Robles now.
I always compare our this time frame of time frame when we are right now. It's what Sonoma was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
that was walking on Napa's shadow, and now we are literally walking on Sonoma's or Paso Robles shadow. Top winemakers now have moved either open a second location, Rumbauer, gigantic winery.
Sure.
They opened a second winery. Actually, I was this morning talking to their winemaker. It's half a mile down the road. Turley Winery, a Zinfandel house that make phenomenal Zinfandels from every corner of California. They have a second winery. Scott Harvey, he's a famous winemaker from Napa originally. Andy Erickson and Kaplinger and Favia. I mean, these are like heavyweights of the wine industry that have been making wine in Napa for over 20 years, and now they are turning around the foothills. And I admire that. And both Philippe Melka, which is my consulting winemaker, it's a guy that had made over 200 wines that have scored perfect points, like 100 or more. So, and the reason why, it's because the diversity of the varietals. When one of the beauty of making wine in California versus making wine in Europe, which I found it personally, here literally you can do whatever you want. The only one criteria is make good wine. Nobody is going to question you for blending X, Y, and Z, or for growing X varietal in the X region, as long as you make quality wine and then the quality shows up, and affordability on the other perspective makes this is going to make this region shine. And it's just a matter of time, a little bit more press, a little bit of more Zoom meetings and in-person meetings.
Well, listen, you now have a new convert in me, because this will be our 3rd or 4th Amador County experience with our virtual tastings. And now I'm really curious to go in person sometime soon and really experience it. And I think, so I want to put it to everyone watching, hit the chat and let us know, yes or no, if you've had Amador County wine. I'm really curious to see what the group, what everyone's experience is. So I know, Susan, actually, Susan, thank you for tuning in again. We've enjoyed having you in the past. She actually knows you, Lorenzo.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So
wow.
She said, "Are you kidding? We love Amador wines." But she said earlier that she actually knows you, and she's done tastings maybe at the winery.
Susan Ziedzic. I hope I say her last name correctly. Wow, that's amazing.
Well, I know Jeff is from North Carolina, and he's like all about it. So Listen, I need to catch up with the audience here. I'm behind because I'm still a newbie,
Close enough for an Italian guy. I love it. Yeah, I always say I'm glad I speak 5% Italian and 95% English. So it's a very tough language. No.
So let's start tasting in a moment, but I want to ask you one more question, and that is, you talk about. I love an expression that I've heard you use, which is, it's as simple as opening a bottle of wine, and you really, personally, and the team strives to make quality wines that are affordable and price accessible. Can you talk a little bit about how you implement that philosophy day to day, week to week, year to year?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, the reason why we want to make quality wine and affordable wine is so I can be the #1 consumer of my own wine. I can't afford to buy expensive wine for multiple reasons, and plus I think the dollar on the wine becomes more a marketing point than actually a quality. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're spending more dollars. You're just paying for them and for their marketing firm behind them. And then
also it becomes a bragging point. I love the fact that you made that point. I think this is the first time in 80 broadcasts in the last year that somebody in your position has made that very subtle point, that the price is sometimes put high in order for you to think it's better. So, and then you buy it because it's high, and it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. But said so, there are some varietals that needs more attention, and attention is translated by sending more people to the vineyard. Each pass that we send them to the vineyard costs between $2,000 to $3,000 a day. And overall, you want to achieve quality, you got to work on the vineyard. That's one way, and that is the most affordable way. So you spend most of your dollars in the vineyard. You prepare yourself to have quality fruit, and once you have quality fruit, the odds to make quality wine are very high. Actually, you are more exposed to ruin that wine than to make it better from that. If you get quality fruit, you're going to make quality wine. So that's one. And then the other way that sometimes when wine becomes expensive, it's the amount of manipulation that goes into the wine. So many lab tests and so many new oak and different oak. And then the wine that gets made to winery X and transported to the winery Z, because these companies only have a label. They don't have a winery. We have a winery. It's right here behind us. It's a 5,000 foot square winery. We source everything from our territory. And then we put all our effort into the vineyard, and we don't like to make wine that is going to taste like the oak. We prefer wine that it tastes like varietal. We lower the amount of new oak that goes into the wine, so we keep it between 10 to 25% maximum, and that's implemented to have a lower cost. So the consumer is not paying for our barrels; it's just paying for the quality of the grapes that we are working and we're farming. And when
does that mean you're moving, like you put the wine in new oak and then you move it out of the new oak into older oak? Is that how that process works?
We do a fermentation. It's done everything in controlled stainless steel tanks to preserve the natural elegance and the varietal correctness. And then after that, we move the wine in the new oak for a short period, just to create a little bit of more complex in the wine and not shift the wine away. And then from that get transported to second, third time used barrels, which have a lower cost. And then as well, real estate from where we are, it's very affordable. The farmers here are true farmers, and they are not driving Lamborghinis. They drive tractors. So it's all overall, it's all like a passion that every bottle of wine that we put, we try to keep it at that affordability level and not exceed the cost. Because we've been criticized sometimes that we make wine that over deliver, and I always said, well, thank you. I mean, we've been said that people I wish this wine was $40 so I can put it on my country club, or $100 so I can put it in my country club. And I said, well, you can charge $100, but it's not fair. That's a $20, $30, $40, $50 bottle of wine, depending on
Right.
how far you buy it from the winery. So, and that's it's as simple as opening a bottle of wine, because you take quality grapes, you ferment them, you do not manipulate them, and then you bottle them and you send them on the market. That's just like, it's so easy. I don't understand sometimes. And then another privilege that we have as a winery is that we built this winery because we had the passion for the wine. We've been lucky that we had some capital that we invested at the start, and we did not go around like looking for credits and banks and stuff. So at the end of the year, we don't feel obligated to charge more for a quality wine, because we have to sell it to pay the mortgage or to pay the bank. Me and the partners, we always say that we are like a non-for-profit organization. Every profit that comes, it goes back to the to the vineyard. We invest in technology because we are trying to achieve the best way to make quality wine at the lower at affordability price.
So let's start. We're gonna start with the rosé.
Yeah. So one of my favorite actually wine to drink during harvest is rosé, because it's the first wine we make. There are two ways of making rosé, and I apologize if I enter in geeky or technical details, but way number one to make rosé is you make the white wine and you bleed it with red wine, and that's how white Zinfandel used to be made back in the days. Way number two is you designate a corner of your vineyard, like a block, and then you harvested it for rosé. So in this case, our Grenache Noir, which is a red grape, was farmed properly for rosé. So instead of like letting the skin and the juice in contact to make it red, we just pressed it like it was a normal white wine. We separated in within 4 to 8 hours, and then we fermented the wine on a temperature controlled 100% stainless steel. So to get that just very elegant, very light color rosé. Yeah, like the color on it's like very light. It's that pink salmon color, and then 100% of this fruit comes from our estate. So we literally control like this growing, and then the quality of the varietal like every single day until the day was harvested. And the reason why I said that is the first wine that I like to drink, because it's the first wine we make. The wine by the end of October, by the end of mid-October, end of November, the wine is already dry, because we harvest the Grenache rosé sometimes around late August, first week of September. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to ferment it and go dry. So the wine is already that crispy, bright. It's a low alcohol wine. The wine, if I'm not mistaken, is around 12% alcohol. It's very refreshing. It has like the Grenache is known for red fruit driven, a lot of strawberry, a lot of cherry. What I like about it is the perfumey, and it gives like this watermelon sense, which it makes your mouth like watery, because it has like this bright, fresh acidity. I mean, people ask me often, what do you like to pair rosé? And I always said, my favorite thing to pair rosé, it's a good friend to talk to. So it does, because it's one of those wines that doesn't steal the show, or doesn't. You can pair it with any kind of food because it's so fresh. Salad, tomato, now in season.
I like to bring it to the pool.
Yeah, that's why we put it in a screw cap.
and the other thing is, my favorite pairing for rosé is sunshine, a beautiful day.
Yeah, sunshine, pool. Yep, a good friend. that you have a good time with
it. Exactly. Although, in the pandemic, we don't see any friends, so I'm gonna have to get used to that again.
Yeah, it's where me and my wife were joking because we were expecting a third child, but she got pregnant before the lockdown, and she's like, "Oh my God, everybody's gonna think that we're in home now, and that's what we do, make children." So she made it clear every time after we went nowhere out, it's like, "Oh no, she was born before," But and then she said, like, if I spending like 12, 13 months with your significant others, if you didn't have a good time, that doesn't want to make you have more kids with that person. So
Right.
that's why the birth rate, it's either going to go significantly up or the divorce rate is going to go significantly up.
Too funny. Well, so now, if you were to pair this with food, if we put a gun to your head, what would you say?
Because of the minerality, this is a dry farm vineyard, so very low yield fruit, and then the wine comes across that lemony tart, sour cherry, and like a strawberry acidity, soft and fruity at the same time. I prefer like a gravlax style, like a salmon, like a raw, like I know I'm running out of words now, but a raw carpaccio of salmon, like or a carpaccio of fish, like either tuna carpaccio or swordfish carpaccio, and then because the lemony of this wine carries, it's almost act like as you were sprinkling lemon in top of your fish to make the fish fresher. So I literally love it with raw fish. This wine.
So this would be good with ceviche, for example.
Ceviche, yes. That's one the term that I could not remember.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, and then speaking of seafood, let's talk about the Sauvignon Blanc, which is the next wine. Which is, I think I love comparing Sauvignon Blancs from different regions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on a Sauvignon Blanc and from Amador versus a cool climate like the Northeast, like New York State has some good Sauvignon Blancs, but also obviously France. So when I moved to California, there were two varietals that I hated the most, was Zinfandel and Sauvignon Blanc. For the simple reason that, in my opinion, they were not Sauvignon Blanc and Zinfandel. They were something different. Like Zinfandel was like sweet and ripe, like a cough syrup, and Sauvignon Blanc tasted like a Mai Tai to me. It's like just like banana and like so. And that's where my dedication to my inputs to this mission that I have on closing the bridges that we talked about. My goal has always have been to make old world styles with the California twist, because unfortunately I can't bring the microclimate that Italy or France have it and transplant it here. The only thing we can bring back is a varietal and replant it. But there are ways that you can close that bridge, and it's harvesting the grapes at the right bricks, at the right numbers, doing a good job on the vineyard, because Sauvignon Blanc, the term Sauvignon Blanc in French means sauvage blanche, which means the wild white. The wild white. So it's a varietal that grows everywhere. That's like it literally sauvage. It just grows everywhere. And if you don't spend that enough time on the vineyard to convert this grape to adapt it itself to the microclimate that where it's growing, it's just going to become like a mess. So what we've done is like we have lowered significantly the yields of the vineyard in comparison to Lodi and other regions do up to 8 tons to the acre. We do 4 tons to the acre, sometimes even 3.5. And that allowed the variety, and then we let it go dry farmed. We have a vineyard of Sauvignon Blanc that is over 30-year-old,
and those roots are so deep in the ground, and then it's absorbing a lot of it's then that natural the water it's coming from naturally from the roots, and so the varietals have this natural high acidity. It's green, it's a Granite Smith apple, that freshness, that tartness. Because of where the soils, this grows in a combination of limestone and sandy loams. So that soil, it brings a natural minerality to the wine, like that Sancerre style. I've been spoiled by the Soms the last 2-3 years, because every time that they have tasted this wine, blind tasted, their number one thing has said that this one has a minerality and acidity of an old world, but has the nuance and the perfumes has the minerality and acidity of an old world and the perfumes of a California wine. Because unfortunately, it's California, it's hot, so the wine is going to come across on the nose with slightly hints of perfumes. Like a ripe fruit, like pear, like a peach, stone fruit. But once you put the wine on the mouth, it's so refreshing, and it lingers.
Yeah,
it has a good mid palate. We blend the wine with 15% Semillon, which is the natural significant other of the Sauvignon Blanc. Bordeaux white wines are always Sauvignon Blanc Semillon. And what we have done different in the last 3 vintages is we found this Portuguese grape called Arinto, that it's a perfect natural acidifier. So it naturally preserves its acidity and has freshened up the Sauvignon Blanc. So the Sauvignon Blanc, it's about 80% Sauvignon Blanc varietal, 15% Semillon, and 5% Arinto. That's what our Sauvignon Blanc makes it every year. 90, 91, 90, 91 from Wine Enthusiast. That is not a lot in comparison to Napa. Well, because we are Amador County, we're never going to get that high score that other regions get.
Well, you know what I love about this one is the color is really extraordinary. We got this Sauvignon Blanc from a cool climate,
yeah,
like France, or again some very good New York State Sauvignon Blancs. It's super, super light, very, very pale yellow. And I love the richness of this color in this wine.
Yeah, so this is like, the picture was not Photoshopped. This is the real color of the wine. And we take a little bit proud, because we put the wine, instead of putting the wine in a darker glass, we put it in a true white wine, a claret see-through glass, because we want people to see it. This is a cooler climate style Sauvignon Blanc, made in a warmer climate region, and yeah, that is all because of the ability on the farming, and then in some good years we really get some beautiful weathers that help us achieve our goals.
And so tell us, what is your favorite food to pair with this Sauvignon Blanc?
With this style and the 2020 vintage, I am a sucker for oysters. I love to go to Humboldt Bay here in California, in Northern California, and just buy oysters. And all what I bring with me, it's a bottle of wine, and just open them and add. And just drink the wine. So raw oyster will be the number one if I will look it on the fish perspective. But if I look at on the other proteins, mm-hmm. I smoked salmon recently, and then the freshness and the acidity of this one, it cut through the butterness of the salmon. But at the same time, I love chicken. So chicken is one of my favorite dish. Mm-hmm. It pairs very well with a light protein like chicken. It handles very well. My wife is vegetarian. It's funny, but literally this wine is 99% of the time it's open in my home. It's either Barbera or Sauvignon Blanc. So, and my wife loves it with sautéed vegetables.
What dish from your former restaurant in Tuscany would you pair this Sauvignon Blanc with?
We did not even talk about this, which is so funny. I just did it 2 nights ago because my wife was craving this dish, And so I used to make a risotto,
Mm-hmm.
and then risotto will be slightly seared on a pan with a little bit of butter in both sides. So the risotto will be at the shape of a burger patty.
Mm-hmm.
So we just compact the risotto, and then sear it in both sides in salted Normandy butter, which it adds a little natural saltiness, and then it will be on a bath of taleggio cheese from northern Italy in a cream style, so fonduta, like a fondue of taleggio cheese, the Parmesan in the middle, and then shaved with a dry aged pecorino cheese. So like lots of cheese, lots of creaminess, and I really love to pair it because again, it cuts through that creaminess and that
the acidity. The acidity, and so Dana read my mind. By the way, I don't know about anybody else watching, but I'm now getting very hungry.
I'll share the recipe. I see.
Yes, so we have to share the recipe, Lorenzo.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll type it down in English because it's in Italian, and then I'll promise to send it. But so this is my email. I'm typing to the group, so to reach me out. So
that's where you can get the recipe, everybody.
Yeah, send it to me, and I'll promise to you I'll send it. I have no secrets.
I love that. I love that. Just your description of the recipe was perfect.
Thank you. But I see here, like, prawns, like any fish that has the natural creaminess. Prawns, lobster. We do a crab feed every year, and then that's when we release our Sauvignon Blanc. So yeah, so every fish that naturally has that butterness.
Yeah.
Think about Sauvignon Blanc, that it's just going to pair beautifully. Because what I wanted to add, before I jump into the wine industry, I come from a culinary. I'm a civil engineer by graduation, which I feel bad for my mom wasting all her money. I knew that I never want to do that. It was too complicated for me, and I loved it. But it's just I love people, and I love talking. I love agriculture. So when you pair food and wine, it's like an opinion. It's like politics, like somebody likes that, somebody like this. So, but I always give the people the advice of like, think about the three components are salt, acidity, and butter, or fat in this case. Whatever the dish you're preparing, if you think that one of them is missing, that's where you look at. You look at on the other product that you're planning to. I look at on the wine. If you're making a creamy dish, so what do you think is going to pair beautifully with that? It's going to be something that's going to be on the tartar style, on the fresher style. If you're making a spicy dish, well, you find something that it's softer acid, softer tannin, so it can cover that spice. So it's always have to be about the food and never about the wine. And I jokingly say it's food and wine pairing, not wine and food pairing. That's just, so always find wines that it's going to enhance your food, your dish, and not take it over, because the moment they take it over, it becomes this selfish thing that it's called wine and not anymore about the food.
When we talk about food and wine pairing, we talk about it from a very sort of basic perspective, it's all about balance. The bigger the wine, the bigger the food. The bigger, the lighter the food, the lighter the wine.
Yes.
And we'll stay in the same league. So, all right. So, should we move on to the Cabernet Franc?
Oh yeah, my favorite, and the reason why this thing, why I am here. I had a bottle. I was trying. Yeah, I can't find it. I had a bottle that I saved, the first ever bottle I had from Andis Wines, and I wrote a message that because of this I'm here. So,
that's great.
But yeah, so Cab Franc. This is our, and as you notice, we put the Cab Franc in a Pinot glass because we really want to show the elegance of the varietal.
Mm-hmm.
And not the masculine of the varietal. Cab Franc it's the godfather, or no godfather, is the other parent of the Cabernet Sauvignon. It's Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc combined together in the vineyard that give birth to the Cabernet Sauvignon today. So, so when you think about the Cab Franc, think some consumers unfortunately think that is a Cabernet Sauvignon style wine, which is not actually. It's very different. They have those like talking points and then the similarities, but it makes a different style of wine. Cab Franc, it's a little bit more elegant. It's slightly lighter on the color than the color. Unfortunately, doesn't come through very well through the camera. But if Cabernet Sauvignon has a tendency to be a little bit more darker, the Cabernet Franc is slightly a little bit more lighter in color. They're known for their herbaceous notes, the herbaceous nose. A true Cab Franc from a higher elevation, which this vineyard comes from a 3,000 feet elevation. It's the highest elevation that we ever go. Above that, you're literally entering the Tahoe forest. So it's just pines and forest. You don't have any more vineyards above that. So by growing in this higher elevation, you're allowing the vineyard to spend as much time as it could in the vine. So it lets the vine ripens naturally and slowly, and the bricks, so the sugars and the acidity and the pH of the wine, they are going all in balance. They're all moving in parallel direction. One of the main reasons why very, very hot climate regions, their wines are sometimes iffy, it's because the sugars ripen very fast and the acidity doesn't follow up. So but when you let that 100 and 105 days between bud breaking, which is March, to harvest, not March, I'm sorry, April, May, to harvest the end of October. So the varietal has entered its own peace, its own balance. So the varietal is balanced naturally on the vineyard. And then when we ferment this wine, we actually use concrete tanks. It's an egg shape. The shape of the concrete is like an egg shape. And the reason why is we use concrete because this vineyard comes from a very unique soils, from a volcanic soils called the Josephine Cereus. Same soils that are found in the Oregon. Very rich in minerality. And we want to transmit that through the bottle of wine. And fermenting the wine in oak, it would have masked those flavors. It would converted the wine into vanilla and popcorns, versus fermenting the wine in concrete, it preserved it. We all use this term of terroir or sense of place, of earth-driven wine, but it's different using the term and then applying it. So we truly apply it. And then this wine doesn't see much oak, and the only oak that sees is just during the aging process, because we want to once you create the balance of once you create a base of the wine, now you want to balance it, and then the oak, that 12 months to 18 months depending on vintages, it just put the wine in perfect balance. It put the wine between tannin, the lower alcohol. This is a 13.5% alcohol Cab Franc. Okay. So from this region, it's unheard, and you can do it. You just harvest at the right time. And so the alcohol, the tannin, and then the acidity, they are perfectly balanced. So the wine on the nose, it's going to come in that herbaceous style. The Cab Franc is known for its natural pyrazine. When I mean pyrazine, is like a hint of the green roasted bell pepper. It's almost like you're roasting bell peppers, that Loire Valley, Chinon style. And then it tastes like a new leather, like a bag, like a new bag. It's like just that leathery violet flowers. So the wine has tannin, has structure. It has that pepperness, that white pepper, which is more perfumey. The tannin is slightly edgy. It's not gribby. It's like we call it a crunch tannin, and not like extracted tannin, because extracted tannin sometimes like it just pull everything out of your mouth and it looks like you just got punched in the face by Mike Tyson. So this is a little bit more elegant. This is like more like a more velvety, more creamy texture. And you know, I mean, I can talk about this. It's my favorite wine, and I believe it. This is the only reason. I was going to work for Duckhorn, and probably I would have make more money than I do now instead of spending all the money on the winery. But sometimes in life, decisions are made for valid reasons, and I've never looked back. I never looked back to that. I when I joined this company, I was happy to do just what I was doing before, and when I was offered to be a partner, it just came as a thank you. But and little is because of Cab Franc, and I served on my wedding was Cab Franc, and all my American relatives of my wife, they loved it. Like they said, like this is unique. You know, this is a perfect wine. So they're rare to find.
So if we turn back the hands of time and we go back to your restaurant in Tuscany, what dish would you pair with this wine, the Cabernet Franc?
Lamb would be the number one dish, but more towards a Greek style lamb. So using a little bit more herbs, and then it's just like I love to season the lamb a little bit with rosemary, because that perfumey and that herbaceous style of the lamb, and salt and pepper, nothing else. Like just three simple ingredients. Right. At that point, it's more about the meat. If you like lamb, you want the meat to smell and taste like lamb. And then Cab Franc being perfumey and herbaceous at the same time, they kind of like they both come. And then boom, they synchronize each other. But recently, coq au vin is another dish that I really enjoyed this wine with. We have a French restaurant here in California in Sacramento that makes a phenomenal coq au vin, and then they have my Cab Franc. One of the main reasons that they put my Cab Franc on their menu, because the
pairing.
The pairing was perfectly.
Well, if this is the wine that convinced you to leave Tuscany and settle in Amador County, I think that's as high an endorsement as you can possibly give.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, if people don't buy it, I'll tell you a funny story about the Cab Franc. 2016, you know, where all the partners are meeting, and then we're doing a business plan now, and we see that we're sitting in so much inventory of Cab Franc, and our CEO says like, well, according to the numbers, we have to discontinue the Cab Franc, and then me and then Andis Friedlander. Andis Friedlander is the founder of the company. He's a fellow New Yorker like you are, and he said, like, you know what? I don't care. We'll make it and we'll drink it. So, and then from that, a master sommelier wrote about our Cab Franc, and boom, like from them, and then now we can't keep it anymore in stock. It's crazy, like how fate and how things are. It takes a left turn instead of a right turn, or an up instead of down, and then things just.
It literally almost died that day.
Literally, yeah. I mean, according to the numbers, it was defunct. You know,
it was on life support, or maybe it was already flatlined.
Yeah, it's like, and then from then, it's now we don't make enough, and I'm glad we don't, because I still want to keep it unique. We produced, if I'm not mistaken, 2018 vintage, we produced around 400 cases, 2019 vintage, 250, because we only produce what Mother Nature gave us from the vineyard.
Yeah.
And if we get a good year, a good yield, we will make it all. If not, unfortunately, we're not going to make it. You know, it's wine made with passion and love.
I think that's a great story. So let's round third base here and head towards home. We're going to do number 4. which is the final wine, the Zinfandel, which is, speaking of your partner, is the Friedlander Zinfandel. And some people watching know that I am a particular fan of Zinfandel. It's what got me into the wine business. Like Cabernet Franc got you into Andis Wines. I got interested in wine when somebody gave me a bottle of Turley.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know the difference between Turley and the name Shirley. And I had a taste of that wine and I nearly fell off my chair because it was so good. And it was a Turley Zinfandel. So
beautiful. I love Turley. Tigan Pasalacqua is a good friend of mine. So Friedlander Block is this wine, and then this is the vineyard. It's a screen, like it's a vineyard from the original block. So this is how big the vineyard look. You see, it's gigantic old vine Zinfandel. Zinfandel was introduced here very, very early, back in the 1800s, 1840, between 1840s and 1850s. Friedlander block, it's a little bit different from other blocks that we make. We make about 4 different single vineyards and soon to be 6 with the new vintages. But this block, it's very unique because Andrew Friedlander, if it's a wine that he loves the most, it's a good old boy Zinfandel, you know, like a Turley style Zin. A Zinfandel, I just like, it's you know, it speaks for you, you know. Hey, you put the wine on the mouth, and then you have the pepperness, and then the spiciness, and just that natural jamminess balanced with the brightness, acidity of the wine. I tell people it's California's table wine. You know, it's a wine that pairs with every cuisine. It paired with burger, it pairs with Mexican cuisine, it pairs with Italian pasta, it pairs with French dishes, it pairs with pizza. And the reason why is because of the diversity of the varietal. When a Zinfandel is made correctly, which I mean like low yields, very correct acidity and perfect bricks, the wine is as fresh and as bright as the wine it could be, but at the same time would carry enough of like that masculinity, that robustness. And we've been lucky. I mean, like for me, Zinfandel, from hating it to loving it, it went like a 360. It went in 180, not 360, but we go back. But it went from like I could not drink Zinfandel to now I pretty much. Every time I have a guest coming in town, I go and grab a bottle of Zinfandel because this is the true California history. You know, drinking Zinfandel is like drinking a California piece of history. So Absolutely. It's been here before every other varietal. And we all talk about old world, Italy or Chianti or Tuscany or Rhone or Bordeaux or Burgundy, but California, if it's one varietal that, in my opinion, shines with the sunshine, it's Zinfandel. It's
the unofficial wine grape of California. And you know what I like to pair with this one, Lorenzo, is I like to pair it with a pizza with red sauce, but a real artisanal wood-fired pizza with Calabrian sopressata, drizzled with hot honey infused with peppers. I will drink that with the wine with that pizza every time.
Yeah, I was doing that's amazing pairing. Since you made me think about pizza, I was doing a chart about like wherever wines are sold, and surprisingly, I noticed that we have over 12 pizza places between San Francisco and Sacramento that they have Zinfandel, and pizza for me is the number one food that comes in mind to pair Zinfandel. But at the same time, you know, I love, if it's a food that I love about America and I brag when I go back to Italy, it's a good juicy burger. You know, it's just like, that's just a good juicy drippy burger, and with onions and pickles and the best glass of wine that can pair with that, it's a Zinfandel, in my opinion.
Yep. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Any of these great, like your Friedlander Block Zinfandel, any of these great Zinfandels coming from California, you can pair them with so many different wonderful foods. They go with everything, really.
Yeah, the diversity. That's what makes Zinfandel unique for me. You can try 100 Zinfandels from 100 producer, and they're all gonna taste different.
Yep. Well, these are 4 wonderful wines, Lorenzo, and I have to say, I want to mention one thing. Dana said, I think you need to do a cookbook, Lorenzo.
Actually, I started it. Called My Easy Meals, and I wanted to leave it to my children. My fear of when we left Italy, my daughter was born in Italy, and my fear that my daughter will just not inherit the same culture of eating that I did. And so I started documenting recipes. It just became, I was going back and forth with my editor, and I told her, you know what, like if I can't express it the way I want it, I don't care. I said, I'm just give up. Like I said, like, you know what, I'll leave it as a handwritten book for my kids, and they can have it.
Do some videos and put them on the Andis website. So,
we will. Hopefully, we will.
Cooking the risotto with the butter and the cheese.
Yeah,
you know?
It's so much time. You saw before we jumped on the phone call, I was working pretty much until
we started.
Until 1 minute before the show started. Maybe in another life, or maybe my kids will do it for me. You know, I'll just leave it documented for them.
Dana and I are going to come out to Andis, and we're going to make you cook the risotto with the butter.
I will definitely will. I did it for was 4 years ago. I was doing a winemaker dinner, and for some reason they read my resume on the internet, and they saw that I had a restaurant. They forced me to cook. So I was a winemaker and chef dinner. So I told them, okay, I can cook only for 40 people. But he did not tell me that it's going to be 40 people 3 straight days. So 40 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then one of the dishes I featured was the risotto.
That's classic.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Lorenzo, this has been an absolute pleasure. When the harvest is over, you come with me in October to Piemonte as my guest, and we'll spend a week in Barolo. And you won't have to do any winemaking or cooking. You could just enjoy what we do.
Yeah. I'm going February. I wish I could come November, but February I'm going to Piedmont.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And thank you, everybody who tuned in. It's so great to see lots of new faces and lots of regulars. Check out the Andis Wines. By the way, based on Lorenzo's pitch, I've got to get myself a bottle of the Cabernet Franc.
All right, guys.
Anyway, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and we will see you soon. Tomorrow, if you're around, join us. And in the daytime, we're going to go to Tuscany.
All right. We'll have fun in Tuscany.
Excellent. All right, guys. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.